welcome back to the channel. I'm the Novice Railway Modeller and you're following my journey on watching me build my first model railway at the tender age of 59, actually nearly 60 in a few months time. So this is episode 11. If any of you have seen my previous episodes, you will see that I'm on the laborious task, or I'm making it laborious, of building my first fiddle yard, which is a significant build, fully DCC with point motors and a number of complicated turnouts, and it's really testing my ability to learn this skill of model railwaying. So you'll see from my last video where we left off that I had a real problem with the last baseboard around a three-way asymmetrical point and two left-hand points where I'm constantly having and getting short circuits. And so today's video is following me on my journey to see if I can overcome those. Thanks for everyone that's commented so far on every video, and people that have tried to help me out with regard to what the problem might be. So we're going to try and fix that today. So yeah, follow me the journey, and hopefully we'll get this fiddle yard finished off, resolve the electrical issues, and start to see some trains running through the fiddle yard. So let's see. Just a reminder then of where my problems have been occurring on this last baseboard, and it's all to do with this three-way asymmetric turnout along with the two left-hand points on this baseboard. So what I was finding was, as the locomotives were approaching the toe end of this three-way asymmetrical point, basically were shorting out, and I found exactly the same at this end of these two left-hand turnouts, that as soon as the locomotive touched these rails here and here and here and here, they were shorting out. And sorry, the same on this three-way on this third road here, they were shorting out. And as you can see, this is obviously wired for DCC. I followed general advice on YouTube and wired these three rails together for my red and these three rails for my black. So I'm not relying on the switch to bring necessarily just the power in. The power's coming in from here. There was no power coming in from the toe here. There was just a straight track here, and I hadn't powered that yet. And that, I'm going to come back to that in a second in terms of a potential solution. The left-hand points were all powered again and adjusted, as is best practice seen on a number of established model railway YouTube sites, and some very experienced modelers do that. And that's all to ensure that if there is any debris or dirt that gets into these switch rails here where the points take place, then it allows for continued conductivity of electricity to allow the point to continue to work. So I had a discussion with Pico. Thanks for all the help and advice that people have come back to me on. I haven't been able to find a solution yet, and this video is designed to hopefully find a resolution to this problem. But one suggestion was to talk to Pico themselves, and I did, although they weren't very helpful, with the greatest respect to them, because they'd asked me if I'd adjusted the point, and I said that I'd taken the springs out and I'd soldered cables in here, and their advice is, well, we don't advise you to do that, and therefore that could be causing you a problem, and end of story. So despite all the best help and advice and guidance from very experienced modelers to wire these into these places and take these springs out, it goes against the Pico advice, and therefore if there was something wrong with this three-way point and it wasn't working because it wasn't designed correctly, then the guarantee would be invalid because I've adjusted the point. So one thing just to remember when you're looking at Pico points and these adjustments, that Pico will absolve responsibility of anything that's a defect with it if we've made these adjustments. So there we go. He was suggesting to take these off because they could be causing the problem, and make sure the power comes in from the toe end So that's one of the things I'm going to try. I also saw a website of an Australian modeller, and he's got some very, very good advice on his own website around wiring different things, and some of his wiring diagrams are a little complicated, but his basic principle is that you should always feed power in from the toe end into your points, where the power was coming from each piece of track, obviously the way that I've wired my fiddle yard, and but the power was generally coming from the top, feeding its way down in the run of it, and ending in a terminal bus at the end, somewhere south of here. So what I'm going to do is, and I'll take you on the journey, I'm going to just power the board where I've got a problem, have that disconnected from the rest of the number of boards down the fiddle yard, and I will change the power direction from this end into this end, so the power will be running that way around and feeding these dropper wires. So I'm going to look to refit that as well. So that was one of the first things that I potentially learned. So I'm going to take those off, just put the power in there, and see what happens. The second potential solution, which I've got to try, is surrounding these DCC Concepts digital IP motors. So the DCC in red and blacks go in these first two holes here, pushing these push buttons back and inserting the wires. I read and I've heard as well a number of times it doesn't matter whether the red goes in here or it goes in that one or vice versa. However, some people that had some problems with their points on YouTube suggested that they changed these wires around and felt as though it didn't make a difference. So I'm going to try that and see if that works. And then the third challenge that I think I potentially had was around these frogs. So this frog here, this frog here, this frog here, and then the frogs here and here, of making sure that they're all wired up to the correct point motor, and particularly on here, because two of these go to the different point motors. So the top one here comes all the way down onto this point motor, and these two here join together and come to the point motor that fits here. So again, I've just got to make sure that that's working, and I've got a multimeter that I've not really used, so I need to understand how it works. So I'm going to refit these points and check that if they're wired the right way, that the multimeter is reading the voltage on all the tracks that it should be. Now I've taken these springs out, so moving these to get the power running through the various tracks is going to be a challenge, but I'll see how I get on. So I can't think of anything else that I need to try to see if that I can make these points work without them shorting out. The ideal will be to wire this without putting it back on the track, and to test it from that point of view. And if I can think of a way of doing that whilst putting these point motors in at the same time, then I will definitely try that. The only other thing to mention is that I have two power buses, one that feeds the track. So these come from the track power bus, the reds and the blacks that you can see, and then I power the point motors from a separate accessory bus, which is on a separate controller. So they don't run to the same controller. And my lack of experience and knowledge was wondering, should they both run to the same controller, and is that causing part of the problem? Or if the point motors are wired separately on a separate bus on a separate controller, shouldn't that matter? So it'd be really good to understand whether that's part of the problem or not, and if you've got any help and advice about that, then please do drop any comments. So yeah, I'm going to see if I can wire this off the layout in this position first and see if that will work. So now it's over 2 hours later, and I've now set up the mock-up, or the dummy, of what this three-way point looks like. And it's taken a lot of trial and error, so I'll just explain what I've done. So I have a basic Hornby Select controller here to the right, and that's powering up this terminal block here, which is just 4 for the red, 4 for the black. And then that's feeding the new track power, and the only track power which is coming in down here and feeding in the power to come in this way through the point. So I can test that now for you, and we can see, or hopefully you can see, that that track tester has lit up orange. I move it down, you can see it's still orange, and onto the point, still orange. Okay, so this point is a dummy for this throw here, and this point motor here is a dummy for this throw here. So the power is coming from the terminal blocks, and the frogs are wired correctly. So this frog is feeding into this point motor, and these two frogs join and is feeding this point motor. So at the moment, now it's powered up, the system believes that the train is coming through this point network, and then it's going to come to the bottom rail as you're looking at it here. So put the track tester on, and you can see this orange. So put it onto that track, no power. Put it onto that track, no power. So it's feeding the bottom rail as you see it. Good. So this throw only sets this to the right, or allows the trains, if you set the other way, thrown the other way, to go straight on or to the top. So if I change 76 and throw it the other way, and I'll put the track tester on so it's glowing orange, I'm now going to throw the point, and you can now see that that's gone off. So let's test the next track. So the middle rail is now alive. Is the end rail alive? No. Just the middle one. I think. Yes. The end one not. So if we throw point 68, sorry, it wasn't on where the track power should come on, and it does. Just to show that, I'll throw it the other way. Gone off. Which should be the middle point, and it is the middle track. It's just not weighing itself down heavy enough for it to light. Dead. Dead. Oh, alive. Dead. Alive. Dead. Change the point the other way around. Alive. Dead. Dead. So I've clearly fixed the issue with the three-way point, that by changing the track power direction and making sure that the cables, the power cables, are the correct way around for each point, then it really shows that I can make this point work without it shorting out, which is really pleasing. However, I did have quite a lot of problems because one of the point motors wouldn't respond to my controller, so I had to take one of the other point motors off the track and use that one and program it, and it would program. So I've taken point 68 from the board over there. So I've got a problem with one of the point motors. It's not the first time I've had a problem with the point motors. Further down the other end of the fiddle yard, I got the same. It was dead. I had some email correspondence with DCC Concepts in Settle, and they said, "Shen, there's a video," and I sent a video, and they said, "Yeah, you program it the right way. It looks like a dead point. Send it to us." I sent it to them. A week later, they came back and said, "There's nothing wrong with the point motor," and sent it back to me. And I've still clearly got the same problem with this from another batch of point motors with one of them. So now I'm concerned about this controller. It's a very basic train controller. It's the Hornby Select. I mean, it is a starter kit, but it's not something that I'm going to continue with. It's just to get me started. So I'm concerned that maybe this is part of the problem, and if I had a better controller, I could then potentially program the point motors to make sure they work correctly. So I'm still not sure. They believe the point motor works, but it's not programming with this controller. Then maybe another controller that I need. I've still to choose the one that I want. But anyway, so I fixed this particular issue here, which is a big relief after scratching my head a lot. And so I know that I can go back and start to relay this track now. Now, after the success of properly wiring the three-way asymmetrical point, I've started to put the point motors that I borrowed to test with back onto the baseboards, and I took the opportunity actually to rewire them at this point in time. So you may remember I had red and blacks feeding the red and black accessory bus, and I realised actually I needed to use blue and yellows just to differentiate the colours from the dropper wires, because when you get a busy board like this, or relatively busy, I'm sure there are busier boards, and you've got dropper wires as well as point motor wires, sometimes it can look like a sea of spaghetti. So I thought, yes, the right thing to do is to use blue and yellow for the point motors accessories, and so that's what I've done. So you can see that I've rewired them neatly back into these terminal blocks. My blue is black because it goes with the blue of the connecting crimps, and B black or blue, so that fits together neatly for me, and so the yellows become what was the reds. So I'm pleased that I've now been able and had the opportunity to do that. I've screwed these point motors back into position. I've used some new screws as well, because the old screws, some of the screw heads are cracked off, as they do on some of those point motors, so I use some of my own screws, which is good. So they're nice and solid now. So here's the power bus coming round what will be the front as we flip the board over, and this is the accessory bus. I will change these accessory bus wires to yellow and blue. I just don't have any 1602 yellow and blue. I need to order some. Sorry, 3202. I need to order some of those. So my next job now is to flip the board over and to fit the points back into position. So that's the points back in place of where they need to go. So dropper wires on both left-hand points remain, whilst we've got insulated rail joiners where they need to be on the inside rails, with metal joiners on the outsides. So those dropper wires, I'm going to turn the board back over and join them up to the terminal blocks, and then fit the arms into the points themselves. So that's the job when I go back over the other side. The three-way point is now in position with the dropper wires the right way, so these two feeding their way down to this bottom point motor, and this one you might be able to just see feeding its way to this point motor. So I've got to join them back underneath as well and just get these arms in place. They're just sat slightly proud at the moment. Just take the arms off and put them back in, and then actually what I'm going to do next is put the long straight on here, drill 2 holes for the dropper wires, because they're not in at this point in time, because that's the power is going to come in this way into this point, and then we're separately feeding power to these points here, and this rail here is fed from further up there. So yeah, so that's the next job. Put the straight on here, drill the dropper wires through, turn the board back over and finally connect all that together, and put the arms on the point motors. Now all the track is back in place on the other side, on the underside of this baseboard that you're looking at the moment, and I've just connected all the wires now that need to be done. So the 2 dropper wires that are coming out here are going to the power bus, and these are for the single track flexi track, which is going to feed the power this way into the three-way point and then through. So so that's now in place. I've shown you the point motors. I've just fitted and extended the power bus at this end, because then that will join to my controller, which I'll power this part of the board to check it. So that's neatly done. And then the frog wires have now been completed. I've actually used heat shrink tube for the first time across these joints, because these 2 frogs, which is from the middle and the lower of the three-way point, come together. So they've been soldered underneath there, and then I've soldered on a dropper wire here too, and it's covered with 2 heat shrinks in green as well. So I'm really pleased with that, and the same with the frog wires here. This one's not connected, it needs to come, where does it go? It comes into this one here. So, and it will go over the beam that's underneath here. So I haven't fitted it until it goes around the other way. These are all disconnected because they need to be fitted at the other side as well. And then these loose wires here are for these point motors at this side, and they'll be fitted when I turn that over. So I'm going to do all that now everything's been prepared, fit that together, and then I'm going to pause for the day. I'm not going to test it because I put a lot of time and effort into to re-preparing this board, and I'll come back tomorrow and then properly test it then when I'm a bit more alert. It's now another day past since the last clip that I was struggling with in how to effectively wire this three-way asymmetrical point which goes into these two left-hand points, in all making 6 tracks from one. And it's the point motors and the frogs and getting those right. And thanks to the people that passed some comments in episode 10. There was one gentleman, I can't remember his name, I'm really sorry, but I will drop you a note back, because you gave me the solution was to look at the DCC Concepts website and look at the guidance in how to wire these frogs. They have some advice sheets there which suit either using the points from the track power or using the points from an accessory bus. And when I did the test that worked successfully, when I wired the rails up in the last couple of clips, then I did everything off a track power. But obviously, coming back to the fiddle yard, there's an accessory bus and a track bus, and it wouldn't work in the same way that I wanted. But the advice sheets from DCC Concepts actually show you a wiring diagram for using an accessory bus as well as a track power. And when I flip the board over, I'll show you the differences to what we've had before. So let me just show you the eureka moment that it finally works. So just off scene, I've got a little class 08 shunter, which will come through this point here, which is point 69, through point 68, through point 67, and should finish on this bottom track here. So I think you can see that, you can. So let's give that a go. Turn up some power. No sound, just an old engine. So through point 69, through point 68, it's just a fiddle. 67, and onto the bottom track. Stop. So let's take it back, and let's now do that and come down this track here. So if this is track 1, track 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's go on to track 2 here. So I'll change point 67. So that's now thrown. Speed this shunter up. Through 69, through 68. It just needs some adjustment on the track, on the back-to-backs. So that's fine. So that works great. So now let's come up to track 3. So we need to change point 69 and point 68. 69, select, throw. And point 68. Let's close. And that should come onto track 3. Now let's give that a go. Oh, I got that wrong. These three-way points are going to take some adjusting to, so point 68 needs to be thrown the opposite way around. Need to close that. There we go, let's try again. Cross 69, through 68, down to 66, and onto track 3. Perfect. Let's change 66, and let's throw it the other way. So we're now going on to track 2. 69, 68, 66, onto track, sorry, 1, 2, 3, track 4. It's all very complicated. And then finally, let's go over to track 5, which means that we do need to throw, first of all, point 68. So 68, let's select it, and let's throw it. Now it's moved, you can hear the cobolts moving. And so that should be the only one we need to change, fingers crossed. '69, '68, and up onto track 5. No shorts. Perfect. Really, really delighted. A lot of hours gone into there, a lot of learnings, and I've just confirmed what I've done. So the power is only coming in into the 3-way point from here. There is no separate power to this 3-way point. So it's coming in here through the rail joiners, and then it's feeding all 3 tracks on the asymmetrical point. I've actually put insulated rail joiners on all of them now. The Pico only advise on the insides of the frog, but I've actually put them now on the outside rails as well. Thanks again to somebody else's tip to do that. I think that just isolates this section here. So this bit is just the live, and then we've got frog wires. So the frog, this frog is, the diagram here is coming down and is linked into this point motor, and then these 2 frog wires are coming down and linked into this bottom point motor, and then we've got separate track power coming from here. So let me just show you what the board looks like underneath and what I've changed. Okay, so I've turned the board over now, and the wiring looks more complicated than it did the last time you saw it. Now the key thing that I've done is to do with how these cobalt motors are wired. Let's make sure that's in focus for you. Yeah. So conventionally, on one point, on one track, using one controller, then you could put your red and black or your black and red dropper wires that feed the accessory from the power bus into these 2 left-hand portals, and then in the 3rd one would go your green frog wire. Straightforward, no problem. And that's the way that I've wired everything else. However, with the use of an accessory bus, you do things in a different way. So what you do is you put your green frog wire into this very end one, which is S2C, and then you wire some separate dropper wires that go to from your track bus into the switching right and left, and so you put extra wires into there, and then your DCC in from your accessory bus, which are yellow and blue now for me, go in there as they did previously. So that's what's different. So when you look at these point motors here, you can see I've got the yellow and blue cables coming in, the dropper wires from the track power, and then the frog right at the end. So very different to how I had them before, and having done that, I then could get what I wanted to achieve in terms of getting trains running through those points without short circuiting. And so I'm really, really pleased actually that that's what I've been able to achieve. I did have to play with the red and black wires with regard to switching them round to make sure that they ran all the way through those asymmetrical points in the right direction, and the power was at the right time as the point was thrown. So that was just playing around. I nearly chucked it in. I thought, I can't do this, but I just kept persevering, switching things round, and finally I got it right. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased. I've got some tidying up to do with this board now in terms of the cables to make them a bit neater, and once I've done that, I've got the rest of the loft to tidy up. But I'm delighted that I've got this finished. And okay, so after overnight, I've now come back to the layout and this baseboard particularly, and I've now, as I promised, I've now tidied up all the wires so into some kind of order. Maybe it could be a lot neater. I see some lovely neat wiring looms on other people's websites and YouTube channels, and so I'm striving to get better at that, but hopefully I've got some order to it. And I'm really pleased with myself overnight. I know I didn't sound that excited on my last clip, however I am really pleased that I've been able to finally sort this 3-way point that's underneath here, and get the frog wires going the right way and get the power running the right way. I do want to say thanks to DCC Concepts, having bought their Cobalt IP digital point motors. They've got some fantastic advice on their website, and they've got diagrams of how to do this. And thanks to, it wasn't somebody on YouTube actually, it was somebody on my TikTok. So on my TikTok channel, the Novice Railway Modeler, if any of you guys are on TikTok, then please don't hesitate to follow me on there for some immediate short clips of things that I'm up to. I put on there that I was having some problems with wiring up these points, and someone said to me, just go look at the DCC Concepts website, and I did, and I found it, and there's loads of other brilliant stuff on there as well. They really are a good company. They're local to me as well, in Yorkshire, in England. So not immediate round the corner, but a nice trip out into the Yorkshire Dales if any of you have been out there. They're sat on the sidings. You may have seen some of their videos. If you haven't, look on their YouTube channel and see some of the videos of their locomotives and trains that pass through the station where they're based. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I was able to do that. There is a diagram on there, some advice on that you can actually link these 2 points together. So I'm feeding them separately from this terminal connection block here, coming from the track power for the switching, and you can actually link. So you put a red into one, a black into the other, and then somehow link the wires there. It's a little bit too far for me at this point in time as a stretch, I think, to start messing around with that. But what it allows you to do is the one point won't throw until the other one's thrown in the right direction, and I think that's probably a really interesting thing to do. So I look forward to trying that at some point in time. But this board is now done, which is great. It's a bit tidier, and what I'm going to do now is just join everything back up on the layout here, and whilst it's not in its final position, the final position is behind here, I am going to put it down on the main layout of this south side, put it together and make sure that I can run locomotives down that. To allow me to do it, I'm going to have to rewire the point motors at the far end of this fiddle yard, because they are running off an accessory bus, and I will have to do exactly the same as I've done here in terms of putting switching wire in, which I didn't do in the first place. Having now got baseboard 5 of the south side, so this is south side 5, turned back over and in position, I'm now ready to put baseboard 4 in position. But before I've done that, what I've done is I've just tidied this wiring up here, and I've rewired this point as I said I would do. So instead of making it a standard electrical wiring, I've now added the switch wiring, so I've changed things around a little bit so it follows the same format. I'm going to pop it into place and just power baseboard 5 and 4 together, and just make sure that this point runs the right way when I make the switches. If it doesn't, then I can switch the wires around. So I'll do that before I kind of clamp everything down and do a full test in earnest. So I've rewired this board, and particularly this point, given my experience of how now I've wired the points on the three-way, and as I've got to it, I can't seem to activate the point through the accessory controller. The points down this board are working fine, so no problem. We're getting power from the accessory bus and the track to this board, but I can't activate point 65. So I've taken the accessory bus wires out, I've wired it directly to the controller, and it works. It activates 65 when I wire it direct to the controller. However, when I wire it through the accessory bus, I've checked the voltage of the accessory bus all the way through up to the point, and we're getting the volts, but for some reason I'm not getting the signal, or the point is not receiving the signal from the controller in the correct way. It could be down to my basic controllers. That's the only thing I can put it down to, that some of the points work with them and some of them don't. It will work when I wire it direct, but it won't work through the accessory bus. Yeah, I'm getting the same voltage coming through the accessory bus as is going in. So I'm not sure what that is at all. I'm just putting it down to the controller. Okay, so that's the end of episode 11, and you really saw why I'm a novice, I think, all the way through the different aspects of this video update. Really steep learning curve for me building this fiddle yard over this long period of time, but particularly on these last few boards surrounding the electrics, DCC and frog power connectivity. But I've really enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed watching me build this fiddle yard on the south side. I've got the north side to do exactly the same size. I've got to work out what type of point formations I want. Do I want to use another three-way point, or which one's best? So I've got that to do. But if you've enjoyed the series and you're enjoying these videos, then please do subscribe to my channel. It's a fledgling channel. I'm building slowly and trying to improve. It's not easy trying to model and to YouTube at the same time, but I hope you see that we're making some progress. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now. That would be great. And if you haven't liked the video, then and you're enjoying it, please like the video too, and don't forget to switch on that alarm bell of when my next video is coming up. I try to post every couple of weeks, and with the weather being warmer, then there's more time to spend outside than inside. But we've had a few days of cooler weather here, and a bit of rain, so that's really helped spend some more quality time here in the loft. So I'm looking forward to a little bit more. And as I say, if you haven't subscribed and you're new to watching this video, I'm new to my channel, please subscribe now, and look out for episode 12 coming out soon. Thanks very much.